Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 33 of the No Punches Pulled podcast. We've got a beaming smile from JFT down the bottom. Good to have Liam back on the panel this evening as well. The squad's well and truly back together. Live for the first time on Twitch this evening as well. So anyone joining us on Twitch, much appreciated. Get subscribed. It's a new platform for us, but always experimenting. And welcome to the regular crew that join us each and every week via YouTube. Very grateful for the long-standing support. Boys, slim pickings a little bit this week. Obviously, we've got a big fight, the biggest fight in America possibly this year. Maybe Benavidez, Morel's up there too. But Boots and Stanionis, we'll get stuck right into that a little bit later on in the show. It's IBF and WBA unification at 147. Biggest fight at welterweight for a long time, in my opinion, this. But yeah, give me... let me know how you are, boys, first of all, and then we'll maybe do a quick review of what happened at the weekend, in particular, some refereeing.
Not the best weekend, was it, for referees? First and foremost, I'm good. Thanks for having me, as always. Good to be back. Good to see you back, Liam. We missed you at the weekend. It's another week, another working week. We're overworked and underpaid. Disappointed that we've not got a stacked and packed weekend in terms of boxing, but we do have UFC fights. You know, we enjoy our MMA as well. So for any MMA fans, there's a massive card that I'm looking forward to on Saturday night that has a British interest as well as world title fights in the main event. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I do prefer my Saturday nights to be filled with boxing prior to any MMA. Few headlines. There's a few things dropped. We're obviously going to discuss Boots and Stanionis. We had the Fabio Wardley and Jarrell Miller announcement press conference at Fratton Park. I always think it is Fratton Park, isn't it? Liam.
Portman Road, mate.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. I always get Luton's Fratton Park, innit?
I thought it was on the wife.
Yeah, I thought you were on the wife as well for a second.
Who's Fratton Park then? I get them mixed up.
Yeah,
Fratton Park and Portman Road. I hate Ipswich anyway, but I always get the grounds mixed up. I thought it was Luton, Fratton Park. So what's Luton?
Kenilworth Road.
Yeah, that's it.
There we go. We got through the A to Z of football grounds that JFT doesn't know. But no, looking forward to a good show, boys.
Yeah, look, good to be back, boys. Sorry to be missing at the weekend, but good to be back now. It was an interesting weekend, shall we say. I don't think the fights possibly didn't deliver in the way we expected, but we got some talking points through controversy, which, hey, gives us something to talk about tonight, so we're not going to sniff at a bit of controversy, are we? And this week, it's the last week, isn't it? Next weekend, we've got a bumper Easter weekend of UK cards. Okay, not the best fights. And then we're rolling into the good stuff. End of April into May is the good stuff. We've just got to, without the UFC this weekend, it would be a weekend of slim pickings, talking to the missus and finding other things to do, wouldn't it? But at least we got a little bit of something to keep us going.
Do us a favour, Sam. Do not put that comment on the board. That goes down as conspiracy, I think.
I see.
I don't want them coming after me.
No. Just get some comments up and running for the crew that joined us. Evening to the one and only DJ Pat. I hope you're well, Pat. New fight week and Legends Place in Atlantic City, the iconic Atlantic City. Lynn, good to have fights back there. Humble Apple Crumble, thank you very much as always. For being with us. The Hand History Vault as well. Good day to you. Thank you very much for being with us. And of course, David Roper-Dope. Sorry, Jay.
That's me going to
jail. Yes, mate. Yana Beck was fantastic. Boys, I want to. We'll come to that. Sorry, Hand History Vault. We're just going to gloss over what happened last week. Then we'll get into Boots Stanionis, and then we're going to come to what's happening with Bivol and Benavidez.
No.
So, boys, look, we watched Joyce Hergovich live, me and you, Jay Liam. I'm sure you've caught up with it anyway. The controversy obviously was in the Rafferty fight before, and obviously Jamie TKV and David Adelaide. I don't want to individually break down the fights. It's been and gone now, but I just really want just a little snippet of both of your opinions, really, on both refereeing decisions.
I'll go first. Sorry, Liam. We watched it live, and I spotted the ref grab his arm. Obviously, we had it on mute, so I didn't actually know that he'd shouted break, which makes it even worse. For me, that referee wasn't a strong enough referee, so he kept interjecting himself, but at intervals that he didn't need to. He was sort of warning them when they'd already been separated, and he was gesturing a lot and sort of making it about himself. I'm not saying that's what he purposely set out to do, but ultimately he made it about himself. Look, it was I don't want to say protect yourself at all times, because that's nonsense. Because if the referee shouts break, you are entitled to relax and drop your guard and wait to be reset again, either repositioned, sent to neutral corners, given instructions, warned, or whatever. If the referee shouts break, that is a call to action, and the call to action is to separate, stop throwing punches, and we've seen that the result was a knockout. It wasn't like, because people were saying it. Do you remember when Mayweather got headbutted by Victor Ortiz?
Yes,
that was totally different, because Joe Cortez had separated them, warned them, deducted the point, set them back up to throw. And if you watch it in slow-mo, Floyd's watching Joe. And as soon as he sees that Joe's not watching him, that's when he knocks him out. But the action had started again. It was just that Joe Cortez wasn't watching. And obviously Ortiz was still watching the referee, who wasn't watching the action. The fight on Saturday night is totally different. Technically, it's an illegal punch because he was told to break. He didn't, but that's on the ref, not the fighter. Adelaide's since come out and said, we'll do it again. I don't agree with hand history vault. I don't think he was robbed as such. So I think he was on his way to getting beat, as far as I could see. He'd started to take a lot more heavy shots. He looked really tired, but we'll never know. The only fair thing to do is to do it again. And I believe that referee should be pushed down a couple of pegs, maybe do some regional shows, like they do with football referees. You do a crappy call, a big crappy call on a game tonight, for example, I don't know, Norwich, Burnley, or whoever's playing, Middlesbrough, Leeds, right? And you deny a goal-scoring opportunity that's a foul, one-on-one. You give a yellow instead of a red, whatever. If that's then found by is it PGMOL? If they then admit that ref's at fault, there's no two ways about it. He's doing Bradford City versus Harrogate Town at the weekend. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? He gets demoted and he's got to sort of earn that, because they're in a privileged position. To be I wanted to be a referee. I would love to be a referee, but unfortunately I'm too old. The training is too long. They need to, it's sort of contradicting myself, because if they speed it up, then you'd say that people are getting through that are not properly trained. I think it's an old draconian method, and it's just not fit for purpose anymore. That referee was obviously out of his depth, as far as I could see it at the weekend, irrespective of, I don't know the guy, I don't know how many world title fights he's done, I don't know what but at that point, he was a small guy as well, two big, massive heavyweights. He looked like he were half trashed to just, you know what I mean? The likes of Howard Foster, whatever you think about him, he will get stuck in and physically separate guys. It was more of a grab of the arm and he shouted break, break, but it wasn't.
It just wasn't decisive. Yeah, it wasn't just Liam. It's like there's been a few weird ones in Tank and Crocker fights spring to mind. Like recent refereeing, but in both of those fights, I think Marcus McDonald did the Crocker one, didn't he? And was it is it
Steve Willis?
Steve Willis who did the Tank one. At least both of them kind of stuck with the own their decision in the moment kind of thing. It was a weird one for me, mate.
It was weak refereeing. I mean, Jay's described it perfectly, so I'm not going to tread over the same ground. But you get to a point, especially when you hear the call of break. So I obviously have only watched it with the sound on. So I've heard the call of break, and I'm instantly expecting him to get involved, wipe the gloves, whatever he was going to do, and then let them commence. For him then to allow Adelaide to take the shot and not only count the knockdown, but not even have a word with him after he's counting it to say, look, I'm letting you have that one, but next time I say break, you need to stop punching and, wait for my next command. Yeah, it just doesn't sit right. I mean, the tides of the fight was turning. TKV was tiring. His punches didn't have any pop in them anymore. He was starting to look to hold even more than he had been throughout the first 6 rounds. So I think that fight was only going one way. But again, we're now talking about a controversial moment from the referee rather than the fact that David Adelaide is the British champion and should be moving towards, for me, Fraser Clark if he comes through Tete next Sunday. But instead, we're probably going to see this again. I mean, Ben Shalom, I think he's actually found his balls for a change. The fact that he was screaming and calling it a disgrace almost straight after the fight.
I wouldn't say screaming's a bit. Yeah, it was.
It's the first time he's actually done it. Yeah, it's the first time he's done it on the night instead of taking 3 or 4 days, going away and then coming in. He was on the moment.
Doing an edited statement. He sort of just said what he felt off the cuff.
He came in camouflage with a cap on. Ben Shalom. He was into the crowd.
Incognito.
Yeah.
But no, look, it's a shame we're talking about the end of that because, yes, Adelaide done what I expected him to do, but he actually impressed me because TKV was frustrating him. You could see after 2 or 3 rounds, Adelaide was frustrated. And the Adelaide that went in against Wardley would have got frustrated, gone off his game plan, and made it a harder night work for himself than it needed to be. But the Adam Booth effect in the corner is definitely helping him. He listens to him. You can tell they worked to a game plan.
You could, but... Did you notice he kept doing this? He kept doing that stutter step, but then not doing any. It was like fainting, and I don't know what didn't do anything with it. He just kept like doing a stutter step.
But there's improvements there, mate. He's improving nicely.
You can see he's boxing in that style with his lead hand was really low, which is not how he boxes. I'd prefer to see the evolution further down the line and see if they really can either completely evolve his style or amalgamate his style and their style, because he just looked like he was still learning, if that made any sense, like he was still overthinking stuff that Adam's trying to instill in him. Didn't look comfortable in his performance at all for me.
I tell you who I would like to see him in with, and look, he stunk your call out on Friday night, but Hughie Fury wouldn't be a bad test for where Adelaide is and also what Hughie Fury has left. I know you could argue and say, well, Hughie Fury should win that, but let's be really honest. What does Hughie Fury have left for boxing? And a win like that for Adelaide could do him the world of good, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Quick few comments, boys. TKV was robbed, hand history vault says bad refs and bad calls. Yeah, Pat's on it there. The Mad Mitch TV in the building.
Robert.
How are you doing, my friend? Big up Antonio as well. Hope you're well, my man. Can't stay for the whole show because Arsenal are playing in the Champions League. We'll won't take offence to it, Antonio. Don't worry, boys.
Bye.
Go on, mate.
Bye.
I just want a one-word answer, really. I don't want to go over it too much, but do you want to see Joyce carry on? Either of you?
No.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I don't want to.
I mean, I love the guy, and we enjoyed Saturday night. He proved a lot of people wrong on Saturday night, but he also proved a lot of people right. He's not the same guy. Anytime he went to the body, he looked like he was going to fall over. It was horrendous to watch. God love him. He's such a nice guy. He's an articulate guy. He's an artist. He's a maverick. He's really charismatic, but boxing's passed him by. He turned over too late. He was in the wrong Olympic cycle. He did what he had to do. He got his medal, which has given him, hopefully, enough money to see out the rest of his days doing whatever he wants. But in terms of getting punched in the head at the top level, that's all he would be doing if he carries on, just getting punched in the head. I don't believe that Joe Joyce could win a world title. I think he's better than British level. I'd love to see him just walk away. I don't mean physically better than British level, because he's probably at that level now. But I'm saying he's more established than to have to go backwards.
Yeah. Mate, I agree with you. I didn't want to see him carry on after Chisora. And if anything, there's even more of a decline from the Chisora fight. Like you say, he was falling over his punches. His non-existent head movement had become even more non-existent.
Slower than we've ever seen. How slow?
And it was...
I thought he was trolling. Do you remember? On our live, I said, he's trolling. I thought he was trolling at first. It was horrific. And Hrgovic is not the fastest, but he looked like flipping...
Fighting
Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, Joe Joyce, fantastic. Running Olympic cycle, like Jay said. Took running to Zhang at the wrong time. And that was kind of his downfall. Those 2 Zhang fights will be where Joe Joyce's career started going down. But fantastic serving. But the last thing now is we don't want to see him becoming cannon fodder for guys who wouldn't have been able to...
Because he's still... Look, like you said, Liam, right? Take the Chisora performance out, because he was already done by that. But the 2 Zhang performances, prior to that, look how well the Parker and Dubois wins have aged. Look where they are now. We've got an interim champion and a full world champion as such. And he beat them both. And it wasn't a fluke. He busted up Dubois, busted his eye socket, made him quit, but was beating him easy before that. Joe Parker he beat, hands down. Beat him fairly comfortably, really. So he's had some great wins. I just think it came at the wrong time. I think he turned over too old. Just too old.
He was 33 by the time he turned over, which even as a heavyweight, that's far too late.
Yeah.
So his decline's been rapid. So, no, not for me. I don't want to see him anymore. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, Joe.
I'm with you, boys, and Pat as well. Right, boys, let's get on to this week now. Boots Stanionis, Boardwalk Hall, Atlantic City, one of the iconic venues in the sport of boxing. Actually, rate Matchroom for bringing it there. I think it's a good venue. I don't think either of them are, huge names. Boots is building a decent following at home in Philly, obviously. Stanionis, Lithuanian, so, probably not a huge fan base in America, but I'm sure he's a few. Look, WBA, Stanionis, IBF Boots, both undefeated coming in. Boots knocked out all but 4 of his 33 victories. 2 of them, obviously, Karen Chikadzian. We both watched both of those. We've all watched both of those fights, and we know how tough Karen is. He's an absolute machine. Look, Stanionis' resume isn't that deep, but I've watched him a bit. You boys have watched him a bit. I think he'll be a problem for Boots this week. I think Jaron Ennis is in a real fight this weekend, boys. I don't know how. Obviously, we'll give our predictions maybe tomorrow night when we do the breakdown, but I think it's a fantastic fight. We've been talking about this for a good couple of months now. We've kind of, we had our lull, didn't we, in March, where we were kind of like, counting the weeks to go. And we always said, April 12th, Boots Stanionis. We've had this kind of date in the, obviously, with UFC guys as well as a big card on there. But for Boots Stanionis, solely for the main event. Now, Ray Ford is the co-main, obviously, but Jay, solely for the main event, it's a proper fight this on Saturday.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the only fight in the division. I think if we'd have seen either of these two guys fight anybody else, we'd have been disappointed because we want to see the best versus the best. I know it sounds cliche and it sounds like I'm, force feeding narratives, but ultimately I just want to see the best guys fight the best guys. I want to see the main guy be the main guy in the division. We've just seen, it happen at light heavyweight. We've seen the two best guys, not avoid each other and be on this collision course and ultimately fight each other, unhappy with the result. Let's do it again. And we've just seen a champion vacate one of his belts. He went through hell to get all those belts, to then give up one of them, to continue to try to prove that he's the best. So I'm excited for this fight. Yeah, a lot of people have not really heard of Stanionis, but I'm telling you now, if he turns up and the Ennis that scraped past Karen turns up, then Stanionis might come away with the win.
Yeah, Liam, I think that's a good point by Jay. Boots, for me, I think he's one of those guys that fights the level of his opposition, so expecting him to come in sharp this weekend, but I think he's tight, Liam, at 147. I do.
I thought he'd have moved up by now. Sorry, go on, Liam.
Yeah, no, and I do think in a alternate universe where he got hold of a world title belt earlier because COVID didn't happen, so we got Spence Crawford earlier, he probably would already be at 154. He's holding on to try and unify at 147, and you can't just say that's a new thing for Boots to be saying. He's been saying it since, he first came onto the scene when there was talks about him and Conor Benn as 2 unbeaten prospects fighting. He said it for a long time, but he is getting tight in a way. Even the Avanesian fight, although it was an impressive stoppage, it wasn't an impressive performance. He looked very laboured. He looked very cumbersome until he found a home for his body shots and then finished it in the 5th or 6th, I think it was. Stanionis' biggest worry for me this weekend is inactivity. I mean, checking his record earlier, this is only his 2021 he fought, then he's done nothing in 2020, one in 2022, and then nothing until May last year. In that time, Boots has had 7 or 8 fights. Yes, I know injuries happen, different things stop fights from happening, but Boots Ennis' activity and the fact that he's had to go to the well and his back's been against the wall in some fights may stand him in good stead on Saturday night. I think the Boots Ennis before the Karen fight, I'd have as a stronger favourite against Stanionis. He's still a favourite for me, but there's now something in my head that tells me that if he's dropping at that level again, or if he is currently killing himself to make weight for Friday, Stanionis could turn up and rock the boat. And look, 2-belt unification. The Ring magazine, for what it's worth, have slapped their number one in the division title on it as well. And then it's just about picking up the missing pieces, isn't it? But this is the fight. 15-0, 30-0. These are the fights we want in this division.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of comments coming in, boys, and we'll get cracking again. Boots Ennis will take this on a UD. Stanionis, good fighter, but Ennis will turn up this time and go through the gears and take this. Pat, that's the general consensus, I think, Pat. David Roper says, not been impressed with Boots and switching to Matchroom wouldn't be a shot. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be, Dave. I definitely, even though Boots is a decent favourite, it wouldn't be a shock to me either, based on what I saw in the Avanition fight, based on definitely what I saw against Karen. For me, he actually has to lift his performance if he wants to become unified champion on Saturday.
He can't do what he did against Karen. He can't do that. Stanionis will lay him out. Stanionis is dangerous, mate. He's absolutely dangerous. It's so hard as well.
Yeah.
I agree with Dave Ropador. I think he'll make it really uncomfortable. You know, a bit like Boachuk, that type of consistent, constant, just marauding pressure. Ennis likes to look at his work, do all that slow-mo, pivoting off, left, right, a bit like Loma. But I think he's not as good as Loma with his feet, getting out of tight spaces. If Stanionis can cut the corners off, mate, we've got a scrap. He's going to have to dig down at some stage.
Yeah, you know, kind of like Berenchik, you know, the guy who Keyshawn just beat, you know, when he beat Navarrete, you know, that kind of performance.
Yeah.
Just got a couple to cover off here. Hernan Boots have got Stanionis at the right time. Pat said that as well about his activity.
That's what I mean. That's the one thing in my head.
There are worries around Stanionis' activity, being a PBC fighter, obviously. Paddy's in the house. Hope you're well, Paddy.
Yes, Paddy.
Fight to go the distance, maybe the safe play. Yeah. I think it'll go the distance, boys.
I do. But tune in tomorrow to hear exactly what live on Twitch.
Look, I think we saw with another PBC fighter recently, didn't we, in Adames, that being inactive doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to a bad performance. Yes, it took Adames 4 or 5 rounds to warm to the task against Shiraz, but once he warmed to the task, for all three of us and for the majority of the people that watched, other than the 3 men in Saudi that were at Turkey's beck and call, the champion won the fight. That fight wasn't a draw. So if this is another PBC fighter that's ticking over in the gym and is just waiting for his moment to explode on the big stage, we're going to need to see a performance from Boots that we haven't seen yet. And look, we are impressed by Boots and we believe he has the potential to pick up more belts, but he's got to show us something a lot different from last year, because Avanissian and Karen wasn't a stellar 2024 for him.
I'll tell you what I will say. I'm not going to give you my prediction because we're saving that for the prediction show, but I will say this. I think we will see Boots Stanionis 2 either later on this year. At some point later on this year. I think there will be some form of controversy. I'm not saying Stanionis beats him. I'm not saying it's a draw. I think there's going to be some form of controversy, be it scraping by or one of those where not everybody agrees with the decision and Stanionis says he's won. And I think there'll be a controversy, and I think Boots, unless he puts a rubber stamp on it at the weekend, will be made to fight Stanionis again to prove that, you know, he's the better man. That's all I'll say at this point.
There's not that many good fights at 147. You know, Barrios has got the WBC, doesn't he? And Brian Norman, who just fought, a couple of weeks ago.
That's why I said what I said when we first started talking about it. That this is the fight to make at 147, because it's not the division, the glamour division that it was some 10, 15 years ago. The likes of Mayweather, etc., and Crawford's gone up now, and he was sort of the poster boy at 147, and he sort of carried the division on his shoulders. Boots is not that guy. They thought he was, and Hearn billed him as being. And I think I saw it in the comments earlier on, but since he's switched to Matchroom, I don't know whether he's believed his own hype and sort of took his foot off the gas maybe, but his performances have not been anything like they were prior to him signing with Matchroom.
It's almost as if, as the big names have moved away from the division, Boots' eyes come off the ball and he's kind of just coasting, isn't it? Like, think about the statements he was making when he was eyeing up Crawford and Spence and that name. Since they've moved on, his eyes come off the ball. Look, he's still winning fights. You can't say he's lost, but the performances have dipped, definitely.
Yeah, just what Paddy's saying there. Didn't Ray Ford fight at Super Feather in his last fight?
Yeah, I think he's had one, Paddy, at
Second fight at
Super
Super Feather.
Feather.
Yeah.
Wow, JFT with the stats there, Liam. You're out of a
But,
job.
he's fighting Matisse. Matisse is a good fighter. He fought Rocky Hernandez last time out, so it should be a decent enough fight for Ford. He should be getting a world title fight probably, I think, after this one. Here we go. Hand history vault. Never want to sit on the fence. Boots is a fraud. I don't see how this fight is really likely fixed. I don't know about that.
Easy, Tiger.
Besides Hearn relying on Boots. Yeah, look, there is a factor in that, in my opinion, Jay. I think they are leaning on Stanionis' inactivity.
Oh, listen, they've handpicked the best fight in the division, but they're making sure they've got him at the right time. The guy's barely fought in the last 2 years, really. You know, like somebody said earlier on, I think if he'd have been active and knocking fools dead, then this fight probably would never happen. Boots would be up at 154 calling for Crawford. But the fact that he's got an opportunity to get another belt in a fight that, look, let's be honest, right? We're bigging it up. They're both unbeaten, but Ennis is the favourite and expected to win. You know, we're talking as people that know the sport and like to think that we know what we're talking about, but
I wouldn't go that far.
It's clever marketing, pal. Clever marketing. Yeah, I think Boots is expected to win by a lot of people, and I think they've brought this in as like, oh, he's dangerous, and oh, he could do this, and he's unbeaten, but ultimately thinking he should, beat him because he's, going to be rusty for a couple of rounds. But as Liam said, with Adames and Hamza Shiraz, as soon as he got his rhythm back and lubricated his joints, it was off to the races. So, they need to be very careful. As I said, if Boots isn't 100% and Stanionis is, then, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a real fight on our hands.
Yeah, let's hope so. We've got Wade in the house as well. Thanks for joining us, Wade. Tailor-made matchup for Boots. Stanionis will come forward with a high guard. Look, it could go down that way for sure. I know we're kind of in agreement for once about how we kind of think it'll go. In a sense, it'll be close. But look, if Boots is who he's meant to be and who, like you boys said a minute ago about how Eddie's his promoter, he has to say this, but like the noise out of America for all them years, Liam, like you were saying, he is the guy, Boots. So maybe it'll be a breakout performance from him. Maybe he'll stop him within 6 rounds and we'll all stand up and be like,
I hope so. Because you want America, you want America to have another star, and it's not coming from the heavyweights and the big boys. There's someone like Boots who has that marketability about him, would be the perfect fighter, but needs to make a statement. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Right, then moving away from Boots and Stanionis, boys, just a couple of talking points to get through before we wrap up. First off, then let's go to Fabio and Big Baby being announced. Then June 7th, Portman Road, Ipswich, Liam's boys. Look, it's a good fight. It's look. Forget about Jarrell Miller. His past and all that. We all know his past. It's sketchy at best. Big up Wade. He's here for Boots. Good stuff. Jarrell Miller and Frank. I saw Frank's interview yesterday. He's moaning about Jarrell Miller's antics at the press conference. I'm sick of all this. It's like, Frank, you brought Jarrell Miller in to be Fabio's opponent because A, he's a loudmouth, B, he can sell fights. And you're going to get that kind of mess about at press conferences. Jarrell Miller's got loads of previous. Look at the AJ build-up before he injected himself with half of his local pharmacy. Look at what happened there. Jarrell Miller is going to do that. Jarrell Miller, for all his flaws, is a fantastic shit talker. He can talk. Jarrell Miller can. So that's why Frank brought him in. Don't give me this, it's a joke why he's doing this at the press. So that's why you brought him in. Fabio isn't a loud.
Whoa. Can we have a bit of respect, please? It's not good for the sport of boxing. Yeah. After he's just sat him down and brought him in. Bought him a Norwich top to wear.
And probably
showed him the dish track. And he's going, I'm going to apologise.
Dish track, Jesus Christ. God. Do me a favour.
I think I'm on the fence about it. I mean, look, Kubrat Pulev, whilst it wouldn't have been a fight that made us jump out of our seats.
Easier.
It would have been easier.
Way easier.
There's a reason it's not Pulev, though. It's because Miller can sell the fight. That's literally why.
They couldn't have had it at Portman Road. Is it?
Yeah, Miller will sell it. He will sell it.
Pulev's not selling that out. Sorry.
No, I will tell you this for a fact. We know that Eddie sort of said for a long time for the right fight will take Fabio to Portman Road. That right fight never materialised. He's moved over to Queensbury, and you can guarantee Frank's got that deal over the line by saying next summer we'll get you at Portman Road. It's come to it, and they've looked at Pulev for the regular world title and kind of gone, not going to do very good numbers in this. So they've had to go for someone like Miller for the reason we said, look, we got our feelings on Miller and we got our feelings on interim world titles in a division where there's already a regular and super champion. But we are where we are with it. And it is what it is. It's a solid main event. It's a step up for Fabio. I want him to absolutely bash the living daylights out of Miller and never allow Miller to get another paycheck again. But it's a much more dangerous fight than Pulev would have been, and it's a much more dangerous fight than the other 3 or 4 opponents that were being spoken about for Fabio. It's high risk for high reward.
The problem for me is, in the next couple of months, we've got 2 high-profile drug cheats, both headlining massive fights.
Yeah.
That's a big problem for me. Paddy, I don't think the actual diss track exists.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Somebody pissed around in a club and edited something, and he's heard that. Fabio hasn't been involved in a diss track. He said that himself publicly. He was lost. But yeah, the problem for me is I know why they've brought Miller in, but ultimately he's been popped more than once. He's a former bodybuilder that's popped more than once for various substances. And then we've got, the other guy fighting Eubank Jr. that's popped. And all he's saying is, I've been cleared and I've got a dossier. It's not a good look for the sport. You've got young, impressionable kids that watch the sport, and if someone says to them, look, this will give you an edge, why would they not? Because they're seeing guys that are getting short enough bans to still have really good careers. It's not a good look. Even though I'm looking forward to seeing the fight, I'd love to see Fabio do what he did to Fraser Clark and break his face, because he's an horrible guy. You could see yesterday that some of the shit talk he just started for absolutely no reason. Fabio's not like that. I mean, he'll talk shit if he has to, but he went from 0 to 100 without the flip of a switch. He just came in and was angry. It felt like nervous energy, though, to me. That's the feeling I got, because Fabio wasn't...
Interesting fight, man. Like, on paper, like... Miller, for me, could cause Fabio some problems.
He's a lot, but yeah, he's massive. He's way bigger than the
size difference.
And I'm not being funny, boys. He was out of shape when he fought Dubois. Like
3 weeks,
more out of shape than normal. When he took Dubois nearly the distance, and he took a lot of big. And Dubois, but Dubois hits harder than Fabio for me.
Didn't he fight Andy Cruz? Didn't he fight Cruz on some daft like 2 days?
He beat Ruiz.
Ruiz,
he drew with Ruiz, but he definitely beat him.
But it was on a 2-day, and it was somewhat mental, like less than a week's notice. He's world level. Whatever you think about him and whatever I've just said about him, he's a good fight. And I agree with what Andy Strivolt's saying. Pulev was a better fight in terms of physically for Wardley, and I think an easier fight. Easier to manipulate his way around that fight. Whereas he's not going to be able to drag Miller around. What is he, 23, 24 stone? He's somewhat mental like that.
Yeah, he's heavy, man.
The size difference is going to be remarkable. Is going to be huge on the night. Fabio weighs in at a push 18 stone, and that was in the second fight against Clark because he wanted to have more power, as he was saying all through the build-up. So you don't really think he's going to want to go much heavier than that to slow himself down. Speed is kind of going to be his friend in there against Miller. But look, Miller has proven that against a certain level of opponent, he is very dangerous and very useful. So he's sort of sitting on that precipice as a lovely gatekeeper for the top-end boys in the division. I'm not saying if Fabio Wardley wins this, he should be getting straight in with Usyk, Dubois, or anyone like that, but it puts him in a much better position for me than beating a Pulev or a Chisora would. Jarrell Miller, for all his faults, is the one holding the keys to get to that next level, looking at Martin McCauley's and the lads I've just mentioned. So it'll do Wardley the world of good.
I will say this, though, in my humble, uneducated opinion, I don't think either of them have done anything to deserve an interim world title shot.
Agreed.
I don't think either of them.
Yeah, I'm not
irrespective
sure about
of what
that
their
either.
rankings say. When we know what rankings say. I could get a pro license, and if I pay the right people and speak to the right people, I could get a ranking. So we know that irrespective of the ranking, I don't believe that either of them. I'm going to back the Brit, and I hope Fabio wins, and I'd love nothing better than to see him raise that belt aloft as an interim champion and then get a full title shot. But if you were talking about wins, I mean, what's Fabio's best win is Fraser Clark or David Adelaide.
Yeah.
And what's Miller's best win?
Well, to be fair, Miller's best win's probably his draw with Ruiz.
That's what I'm saying. And, so, it'll fill out the stadium. It'll be a stacked, packed undercard. So, we'll be doing a watch along. So good luck to the boys. May the best man win, which is Wardley.
You know what it is? It's an argument for, so Wardley picked up a WBA ranking belt 5 or 6 fights ago. It's an argument for what actually holding on to one of these ranking belts and sticking with one governing body does, because there's no way he gets this off the back of being British and Commonwealth champion without that bullshit trinket that he's held on to since 2021 or something. So it's an argument for that, isn't it? I don't agree with you, mate. Neither of them deserve it. And it could actually, Fabio losing this could be detrimental to him because then he's going to have to go back and rebuild.
Yep.
But look, it's prize fighting. You take the opportunities when they're there, and neither man was going to turn the opportunity down. So I hope Fabio does it. But
10 years ago, Fabio stood on the terraces dreaming, doing white collar fights.
It's great for Fabio. It is great.
So the story's wonderful. I think he's due to be a father as well soon. So this year could be massive for him. So don't think that me saying they don't deserve it is me being a hater, because that's not. I'm just talking the truth. If we're talking about deserved in terms of what they've done within the sport to deserve a world title shot, then they haven't. But deserve it as in a man that deserves to get his dreams, fuck yeah. More power to him. But in terms of boxing, they don't deserve this to be a world title fight. But again, I don't think it would be the fight it is without a trinket.
No.
Irrespective of what we feel about the belts. It needed the trinket. It needs to be sold to the casuals as a world title fight.
Look, 7 years ago, Fabio Wardley fought on the other side of Ipswich in a venue that held no more than 1,500 people in a white collar fight. Now he's got a chance to put in 35,000 people inside Portman Road after doing 2 fights in Saudi, after doing good numbers at the O2 in the British Border Control Fight of the Year last year. Like you say, his journey deserves this. It's just us knowing what we know about boxing, think there's other people maybe a bit more deserving at the current time.
Yeah, and it'll be good to have the stadium full, because you'll be back down to 10,000 again next year, won't you?
Another year, mate. Another year.
Last one then, boys, before we wrap up for this evening. Pat said Miller can ask Fabio. Yeah, he will definitely. Pat, there's no doubt about that for me. We learned today then the latest email champ, through no fault of his own, of course. David Benavidez, now the WBC light heavyweight champion. Bivol vacated. I saw Mauricio Sullivan's correspondence. Basically, a third fight for Bivol and Beterbiev has pretty much been agreed anyway for Riyadh season's opener again in October. I think Garcia and Haney 2 is going to be on that card as well, which will be a cracking card. I'm a little bit gutted in the sense of I would have loved to see Benavidez-Bivol. I think it would have been a really interesting fight. But look, who's complaining about seeing Beterbiev-Bivol free? No one. Look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Benavidez is going to go and have big fights. I think Bivol won't be far off retirement itself after a third Beterbiev fight. He'll have made all the money that he needs to make. He's had all the belts. He doesn't need to probably fight Benavidez. Maybe he can fight Benavidez for undisputed if he beats Beterbiev.
I don't think he will. I think he'll sail off.
He can probably ride off into the sunset himself. I don't know. It makes it interesting for Benavidez. Who's he going to defend his WBC World Championship against? Because to be fair to Benavidez, he wants all the smoke, man. He'll fight anybody.
Callum Smith again.
Yeah, Callum Smith's the name. There's apparently been preliminary talks. That was the other line.
That's a good fight, man. Smith deserves it after beating Boazzi as well.
Yeah.
The only person that isn't happy that Bivol isn't fighting Benavidez is Mauricio himself. His messages last night came across like some spoiled child that's been told no for the first time in their life. It's really petty. I mean, you knew this was on the cards. You knew from as soon as the decision was announced in the ring in February that it's 1-1 in the trilogy, and both men had said all the way through that if this gets to 1-1, if we don't retire, we're going to do it again. So carrying on like he is when he's already sent the email when Benavidez' belt is on its way across Mexico to him now. I mean, come on, it's kind of Maurizio doing what he does, but you do got to feel a bit sorry for Benavidez. He obviously stayed at 168 for Canelo, and Canelo kind of went, no mass, I don't want any of the young pups smoke. And now, I mean, was he ever really in line to fight Bivol or Benavidez? Yes, he was the interim champion. For me, I never felt like it was going to happen with where they're at in their career, but Bivol Beterbiev 3 could have absolutely 0 world titles on it, and it's still the best fighter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and that's the point. They've both been undisputed anyway. They did have history of I agree. It's similar to Usyk and the IBF, wasn't it, for heavyweight? That's pretty much identical.
That's all it is, mate. That's all it is.
Situation. Look, if he does drop his IBF again, who cares? You know, they don't need the belts on that fight, as Liam said. You know, we know who the best two light heavyweights are in the world.
I don't think a second governing body is now going to make a fight to drop a belt. It's quite funny. If you think back 3 champions being stripped of titles if they got more than one, if one governing body does it, the second one is kind of happy to sit back and keep getting their 3%. Yeah. So I think the IBF will let it slide, which, look, it doesn't really matter. Those two we said before, Bivol and Beterbiev fight 10 times. It's a cracker every single time, and there's a chance it could be 5-5 come the end of it. So the belts just kind of add a bit of window shopping and give some rich men some more money that they don't really need in their lives, really.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully we get to see that trilogy anyway, boys. But yeah, we'll leave it there for now. I think tonight, boys, plenty going on for the rest of the week. We'll give our predictions for the main event tomorrow. And obviously we'll do a little bit of UFC 314. We'll maybe do a preview show for that a little bit later in the week if anyone's into that. Big up to Jay and Liam, as always, for joining me. See them on Thursday over on Jay's Fight Talk YouTube channel for Straight Talk. Liam will be giving his Boots Stanionis, Liam's Fight Night Picks video on the JFT channel as well this week. Thanks to Paddy, Han History Vault, DJ Pat, David Ropedo, Wade. Who else joined us? Antonio, Mad Mitch TV. If I've missed any, Humble Apple Crumble. If I missed anyone else, I apologise. And the few people that joined us over on Twitch on our debut as well. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to JFT. Follow the boys.
Thank you, man.
On X at Jay's Fight Talk at Liam_Tully9, and give us a follow and a sub on Twitch if you haven't already. We're trying to grow over there as well. It's much appreciated. Quick couple of comments to go. The old saying of being across the street with Benavidez, he's not going to fight Bill. Yeah, exactly, Paddy. Bang on the money for there, me, mate. Good comment, that. And yes, Pat, top man, mate. Appreciate your support as always. Jay, Liam, top stuff. See you boys tomorrow. And obviously, Saturday night, we got Boots Stanionis and 314. It's been a while since we had a big night like that. So, yeah, looking forward to that, boys. And, yeah, as always, been a pleasure.